Howdy folks, it's your friend Fishing with Dom. Hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about drop shotting. Now, I'm going to go over the basics, tell you what rod I drop shot with, the line I use, where I fish this bait, because I just started fishing it earlier this year, and I'm going to tell you what, this catches fish. I'm late to the game on this one, big time. When it comes to new trends in bass fishing, I am generally a couple years behind everybody else. As far as drop shotting, I've done it a little bit when I was younger. This year I started getting more and more into it when I found out how to fish with it exactly. I know a lot of anglers struggle with it at first, but took me a couple minutes to get a hang of it, and I tell you what, I was just walloping big old Saginaw Bay smallmouth with this setup a couple weeks ago. And this is something that's going to be in my tackle box ready to go constantly. One of my favorite ways to catch fish now. It is a hybrid method, I like to call it, between power fishing and finesse fishing, because it's not quite, constant movement, and it's not quite a weightless worm. You're just plucking this bait along at your own pace, at your own will. Now, my hook of choice, right here, I have two hooks that I use. I can sometimes, if I don't have any of these, this is my backup hook. This is a Gamakatsu Finesse Wide Gap size 2. You Palomar knot this and you nose rig your bait. Quality hook right here. But avoid the hassle. Get yourself this VMC spin shot hook for drop shotting. Nice hook, and in between the eyelet there's a shaft with two connecting eyelets to connect your dropper line and your leader line. So that hook can completely spin around, gives your bait a lot more movement in the water. Get a pack of 5 or 6 of these hooks for maybe $5 or so. Well worth it. For how much I drop shot, I'll go through probably 2 packs a year. Hopefully it's going to be more than that in the future, because I'm going to be doing this a lot more. I see what it's cracked up to be. Coming down off of this hook, I have anywhere between a foot or 18 inches of dropper line. Generally speaking, because it's easier, keep it simple with the fluorocarbon. My leader up here is fluorocarbon, and that's going to either go straight fluorocarbon to my reel, or it's going to be tied off, and I will use a super line like a Suffix 832 or the new Berkeley Fireline 8 carrier braid. Very, very sensitive line. If you haven't fished a new Fireline, do so. Very sensitive, very strong. Knots hold up very well on it, and that's what I run for line. But coming down off of my dropper line, I do things a little differently. A lot of people just tie a knot down here and clamp on split shots. Me, I originally started with tying directly to a bass casting sinker. You know, the old school ones you grew up with the brass eyelet coming out of it. Well, began to innovate a little bit and think. I took one of my tiny clips that I use for ice fishing or trolling, or whenever I want to swap out baits really quick. I took one of these quick clips and attached it to my dropper line, so I'm able to change my weight size in a breeze. If I'm fishing a little shallower and I want to go from 3/8 of an ounce to 1/4 of an ounce, it's no problem whatsoever. So I'm 2 seconds in, 2 seconds out. I just went from 3/8 of an ounce to 1/2 ounce, and I can go down to quarters, eighths, even 3/4 of an ounce if I want to. So that's what I do with this clip. As you can see, I'm changing these weights super duper quick. If I'm altering depths very, very rapidly, I can swap out this weight in seconds. I'll keep a few of these weights in my pocket and just go to it from there. Saginaw Bay, a lot of times I'm drop shotting anywhere between 15 and 30 feet of water. I'm targeting those deeper channels, the deeper flats, the down low ledges, and that's where a lot of smallmouth tend to hang out come May and June. Later in the summer, they'll run out to the deeper water, and sometimes later in the fall they will come up into the shallower bays. So I might start fishing a little deeper and use a 1/2 ounce. Later in the day I might go a little shallower as far as 12 feet or so, and then get away with a 1/4 ounce or so. The rule is with drop shot weights, you want to go as light as possible. Just give it a little bit more of a finesse approach, a little bit more lighter of an approach, and you're going to cast that bad lad out there, and your line's going to come in like this, only the hook's going to be pointed upwards, similar to this, with your bait on it. And you're going to be able to feel that line and your slack get really tight, and you're going to feel like you're about to pick up on that weight. And when you do that, that's how you fish that bait. This bait fishes solo. You'll catch fish hopping it along if you're just bringing it back like that. But when you're fishing it tight, drop your rod tip, and that hook and that bait will go down in the water. Give it a nice flutter action, whatever bait you're fishing with. And then you just pick up the slack and hop it a little bit. Some days, I'm letting that bait go all the way from the top, crash into the bottom, just pick it up slowly and let it flutter around. Some days, I'm dang near casting it and just popping it and striding it back to me. It's similar to jig fishing, but it's not jig fishing. That's what I mean when I call it a hybrid way of fishing. I can cover a lot of ground with it, or I can really break down pinpoints in locations where fish could be hanging out at. If I'm fishing clear lakes, like Torch Lake in northern Michigan, Lake St. Clair, the Saginaw Bay, and I'm looking for structure, you can almost sight fish smallmouth with a drop shot. If I see one down log, you bet yourself I'm going to cast my bait, my drop shot, up near that log, that rock pile, something. And you can't see those fish for a reason. They're pretty dang well camouflaged. And they'll come out and smash your bait. It's just an absolute riot. Now, there's a variety of different drop shot baits you can use. Notable worm that I fished with a little bit last year with my friend Dave Rose. The Strike King Kevin Van Dam half shell worm. About 3.5 inches long. Caught a lot of bass with it. Nice, subtle swimming action. But one of my other favorite baits, this is probably my second favorite bait to drop shot. You might have seen this in all my walleye fishing videos. The Berkley Gulp Minnow. I'll fish it in the 3-inch earlier in the season, match the hatch, when the minnows are a little bit smaller. And then after June or so, I'll kick it up to the 4-inch. And I'm just going to take my hook in this bait, and I'm going to nose rig it, just like so. Puncher it, just like that. So that bait's coming through the water, looking like a minnow. Those fish are going to come out and they're going to T-bone it. Caught a lot of nice fish with it earlier this spring. But my favorite drop shot bait, Berkley Max Scent 4-inch flat nose minnow. And if you see that, there's a reason there's only one bait in there. This bait catches fish. I've been peeling through them because I've just been catching so many fish. I'm not peeling through them in a bad way whatsoever. I am just catching a lot of fish with these worms, or these minnows actually, and I am loving it. See, they got a nice flat facade up front, very easy to drop shot. All you're going to do is take your hook point, go in maybe 3/8, half of an inch or so, just like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. When this bait is presented near the bottom, and it's that nice finesse, weightless presentation where it's just kind of fluttering, doing its own thing. It's got that Max Scent power bait smell coming off of it, or whatever spray or liquid attractant you like to use, like Liquid Mayhem, or if you've got the Berkley Gulps that come scented. This is year-round. You can confidently smallmouth fish a drop shot and really, really, really catch fish. Lake Erie, this is a big-time favorite. A lot of the Great Lakes, this is an excellent method to find smallmouth bass. And you can catch largemouth doing this on inland lakes as well. I've heard of some people extending their drop lines and fishing them over weed beds, catching pike with them sometime. Awesome, awesome, awesome method to catch bass. And as far as my leader goes, if I'm fishing open, clear water, not a whole lot of stuff to get hung up on, I'll fish with a 6-pound fluorocarbon connected to my mainline fire line, which most of the time is an 8 or a 10-pound. But generally speaking, the leader material I have is 8-pound test strand fluorocast. I'll also use the Trilene 100% fluorocarbon. My friend Andy, he really, really digs the Seagar Tatsu and the Invisix fluorocarbon for his drop shotting. And they all work, they all catch fish, but you can even get away with a monofilament, I think, and go for this. But I'm a big fluorocarbon guy. If that fish can't see the line, I don't have anything to worry about. So you find different points sandy flats, rock structure, get yourself a drop shot hook. Whether it be this size 2 Gamakatsu finesse wide gap or the VMC spin shot. Grab yourself some baits like the Maxent flat nose minnow, the gulp minnow. There's an endless supply of drop shot baits out there. Strike King makes a lot of them. You can look for drop shot baits all day at tacklewarehouse.com or in your local fishing store. Find smaller finesse style worms and fish with them. But that's what I have for you today. Drop shotting, awesome technique. You got to give it a shot if you haven't already. I'm fishing it on a medium, sometimes a medium light spinning rod. Just casting out, pick it up on it, waiting for a tick. Just pick it up a little bit, drop your rod tip down, let that bait flutter do its thing, just pick up the slack and slowly bring it in. Sometimes that makes the world of a difference. And it'll take you a while getting used to drop shotting. Not everybody can pick it up. There's a reason why a lot of these Bassmaster Elite Series anglers either love it or they hate it. It all depends who you are as an angler, but I promise you, anybody can master this. It's quite the way to fish for smallmouth bass, because you don't feel anything, then you'll pick up that weight. You can feel a slight resistance from your weight dragging across the bottom. They just feel that little pack in. Game on. 17-pound largemouth bass state record. You can catch a fish like that. I'm Fishing with Dom. Thank you for watching this video and continuing to support my channel. If you have any comments or suggestions, please let me know below. I would really like to hear them. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Goodbye, folks.